Right guys, welcome back. Let's go racing. Today's race is Stage 3 London. The route itself is London Classic Reverse, 15 seconds. Before we hit the start line, quick bit of info about the course. It's 18k, I want to say, and that's 11.4 miles, and this is Category C. 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's see what we do. Trying to hang with the group, just bit curious about the wattage off the start. I kind of went not too hard. It didn't seem like the most Zwifty of Zwift starts, and anyone that Zwifts will know what a Zwifty start is. But then obviously I get massively caught out and everyone kind of kicks on ahead of me, which is always fun, but didn't panic too much. Main goal of this is always just to stay with the group, and that's basically it. I'm still pretty much new to Zwift racing. If you want to see any of my other videos, we do have a couple of them up. I missed stage 2 for the London race, for the London races. I did do stage 1, Cat C and Cat B. I get absolutely dropped in the Cat B race. Well worth a watch. Anyway, as we kind of off the start line, a little bit of catch up to kind of stay in the group. Some absolute numpty kind of heads off on his own, just trying to make it attack off the line, which I completely admire as bravado. I love it. I didn't realise until we actually got into the race that the power-ups for the racing series are slightly different. You get the Ghost and the Burrito. The Burrito just made me spend the whole time thinking about food. Anyway, Ghost just makes you disappear, so if you're going to attack and you got Ghost, it's always a bit of fun. I think someone kind of does that a little bit later in the race. Anyway, this is actually, if you have cycled in London, I think it's called Lower Thames Street. One of the nicer streets in London, especially if you cycle into the city in the early mornings. Wouldn't bother going down at any other time because it is a bit of a nightmare. I think there is a bike lane for it. And if you were to be cycling in the real London, this would take you down to Blackfriars Tunnel, which is not very nice. Anyway, looks like there's a bit of a break. All I'm trying to do is just stay with the group. I think this is a dead flat course, by the way. Like I said, it's a big lead in, and then there's 2 loops, and I think the loops are like 3 miles each. And the course itself is 11.5 miles, so what's that? You get a 6-mile lead in. I just want to stay with the group. Whoever wants to take it out can take it out, and I'm just going to sit on their heels. Unfortunately, guys, I think if you are honest with yourselves, I'm sounding very much like you're in a monologue right now. I didn't really want to attack anything. I'm very new to racing and Zwift racing and bike riding in general. I've got a double fracture in my right knee, so usually it's running for me, but we're on the bike and I'm absolutely loving it. This is actually Blackfriars Tunnel, and to be fair, the game has really done it a solid because it's a lot grimier than this in real life. And I wouldn't really recommend cycling through it. There is a pedestrian side to it the other side. So it looks like we're pretty much set for our group here, and that's the whole plan, holding kind of 200 odd watts. The one thing I like to keep, the only thing I really keep an eye on, other than not getting dropped, is my heart rate. Anything below 150 and I'm pretty happy, kind of just to cycle around at that. Anything over 150 and I start panicking. There's me just using my Ghost just to kind of see what it does. I had no idea what it did, had my suspicions, and there you go. It doesn't actually last very long when you're using it in the race series. Right, we're going to settle in. I do know from having done this course previously that once you get to the end of this, you hook a right-hand turn. It's in a bit of an uphill, and as we know, in the Zwifty world, any uphill tends to split the group slightly. So I knew my kind of only tactic was to kind of make sure I was at the front of the group for that, just in case anyone split off. A little group of I would say 6 or so. Once we've got this hill out the way, there is, I think it's like 100 feet or 150 feet or 50 meters in the entirety of this race, which is 18k, 11.5 miles. So there really wasn't any climbing. So it's out and out power for the win today, and it's just a question of kind of weight becomes slightly less inconsequential. So if you are a strong cyclist, you're a big lad and you've got some power and you can put it down, then you're in with a shot with this one, which is always nice in Zwift world, because every time I go up a hill or a climb, I usually find myself going backwards. I'm going to have to start causing a bit more mischief in this races because I took it quite easy. I've actually just got back from a week away, so this was me just trying to find my legs again. Pretty happy, kind of, we're bowling around 210 watts as we come down here. my screen starts lagging because I was actually watching a Marvel movie on my second screen at the same time, and Zwift has that effect. If you were to swing your head to the left, you'd be passing the London Eye in just about a second, which is probably one of London's finer features, temporarily set up in 2000 as the Millennium Wheel, and it has been kept ever since. And so this is Embankment, right? We're heading, there's London Eye, there you go, and we're heading down towards Parliament. A few very posh and very wealthy hotels and offices on the right, and the Ministry of War, actually, where they gets featured in a few Tom Cruise movies. What is it? Anyway, so the only thing I was worried about coming down here was this big right-hander coming through. Is this big right-hander coming through up here? Sorry about that. Because I know it's a bit of an incline. This is basically all the incline for the course. So all I do is try and sit at the front of the pack. Just make sure we don't get dropped. Looks like, there's 20, 25 of us at the moment. There we go. Look, that cheeky person with the ghost and then the kick, which was nice, but you're not going to do that solo on a flat course. The wattage kind of pumps up slightly. We're over 300 now. Heart rate hits 150. Little bit kind of the field just starts moving, but because it's dead flat, it's all going to come back together. So there's no panic. Just don't get left behind. So our friend there with the fire socks, I'm pretty sure that's the guy that ends up winning this. That's no spoiler because I doubt you're going to stick around to the end of a 30-minute race watching it on YouTube. But if you do, there's a guy that's gone out on his own. Question, would I have gone with him? Could I have gone with him? Should I have gone with him? I just think these solo efforts, what I look for, I say it like I know what I'm talking about. What I look for is at least a couple of people. You need 4 or 6 people for a half decent breakaway in Zwift at least. So my heart rate's hitting 156. So I think my decision is to casually just slide back into the back of the pack in a second. But we're heading down towards Parliament. We're going to hook a right as we go towards Buckingham Palace. God, I really do like the London Zwift route. It's really nice. We're still on the lead-in. You can see on the top of the screen just says lead-in before we get into the laps. Just trying to figure out. I don't know what anyone else's approach is to racing. I always try and figure out who wants to do what, where, and how. And is it the same person that's kind of sat at the front and pushing the wattage? What is the deal? For me, these first few races, I really am just learning, and I'm really enjoying it. But I am just learning. I'm trying to figure out where I sit in the peloton. If I'm out to the left and my rider doesn't look like he's in the draft, am I getting the same draft effect and that kind of thing? Is it where's my positioning and all those small things that I think actually do make a difference, that make it a little bit more fun. We're going to have to do some crit races soon because crits are just they're little fast tearaways, and I still don't understand what happens. I don't know how they work, but anyway. This one seems fairly straightforward. So you start on the start line, you finish on the finish line, and the first person that crosses it wins, which is good enough for me. Okay, so we're heading down. I don't know what this actual road is called, but you've got the London Barracks on the left, where all our I guess it's just where all our soldiers live, I suppose, but it's referred to as the London Barracks, so I hope they still do. Looks like we've got a group of 20-ish people, which is on a dead flat, because we don't go up any. There's no more climbing. there's no climbing in this anyway. There's no more elevation for the rest of the route. It's basically just a couple of feet here, a couple of meters there for the rest of it. So I'm pretty happy kind of sit back here. As mentioned, just trying to find my cycling legs again after a week away in Portugal, and I got a double fracture in my right knee, which came as a running injury, and it's meant that if I'm not on the bike, cycling is my only exercise I can do, so I couldn't do any running. So it's been a complete week off, a week of chips and chicken in Portugal. Anyway, we're heading up to the Duke of Wellington Arch, just passing Buckingham Palace. Pretty happy with my positioning. There's not too much to shout about. I'm pretty sure every now and again I throw some comments into the group, try and be the cheery run, but absolutely no one replies. It doesn't make a difference anyway. Every now and again I try and just see who's always try and gauge the temperament of the people that you're cycling with. who's trying to kick on, who's trying to push, and who, most importantly, wants to have some chat have some banter in the chat, because that's what actually makes the race a little bit more enjoyable. Kind of sweating quite hard and working. One thing I've definitely noticed is that you can work into some of these U-turns, definitely work into the U-turns. I'm on the left here, so I kind of think, right, just a little kick, let myself sit back and then don't get dropped by the group. I tend to find that people work a bit harder into corners. Obviously people work on hills because that's a way to break the group up, but corners is another thing where you can work a little bit harder and just like a little kick, there's a little kind of half a second where you just stomp on the pedal a little bit. But coming down here, this is basically, I don't think we've dropped anyone. I think there's a group of 20 people. The wattage comes off slightly as I think we're about to finish the lead-in. Once we've done the lead-in, it's 2 laps, and I think they're 3 odd miles each, something like that, which is 5k. And the group was never going to split. We're Cat C, so I think we're pretty much 2.6 to 3 watts per kg for most of the race. There are some little bursts where we go over 3.2, 3.4, but other than that, it's all kind of manageable. I don't know, is there a way to break up a group on a flat race? Probably not. Like, is there a way to grab someone and say, hey, should we give it a crack? I don't know. I'm just figuring it out, just trying to stick with the group. As we head down the Mall, again, as mentioned, this is the finish for the London Marathon, which actually will be taking place next month. I think this is the point where I count, I think 19 people coming down here. It's a really tough group to break up. Some guy does push on slightly, but I don't think that's really going to lead to anything. Goes on his own. I think next time I race, especially Cat C, because I'm finding with a lot of the Cat C races, I can hold the group. As mentioned, I'm not the best cyclist. I just absolutely love it. I'm happy holding groups. Oh, that guy disappears. I did actually wonder at the time. I was like, is he going to kick on, or is he just going to turn up next to me because he's trying to figure out what the ghost is? And lo and behold, I think there we go. Yeah, straight back. Just getting rid of burning off his power-ups. Group looks like it's splitting, but you're not really going to break up a big group of 20 odd people. The guy that kind of just led that little mini attack, if you will, has now been dragged back into the group, and I presume he takes his seat at the back of the table and just feeds off everyone else's power and wattage as he gets pulled along. I believe is this called Independent Arch? I think so. Anyway, one of the worst roundabouts in London coming up, and that's the Duke of Nelson column on the left, and the what is it? The something of art. It's that big art building. Some guy finally in the chat, like there's me with the chee-hoo, and tells us that his Dave Johnson has got a 209 HR. So I'm presuming Dave's about 8 years old. I don't think I've seen 209 on my heart rate since 1994, which I think is what I come in within a second. But yeah, it's fun. I'm enjoying it. Finding it hard. It's good to get the legs moving. Anytime my heart rate drops back below 150, super happy. This was just a game of like sitting on wheels and waiting for the sprint. It's funny because as I am, there we go, cheeky comment. Haven't seen that on my HR since 1999. So even though I'm out there racing, trying to stay in the peloton, always enough time to tap out a cheeky message to the group. No one replies. Anyway, I think if we get to that moment where we're going to rate the kit, what do I like the look of the most today? I think that red and black one is horrible. I don't know who you are, but that is horrible. Quite like the orange of that. Quite like the look of the blended orange jersey, although I'm more of a solid colour kind of guy. Matching that nicely with the Zwift Tour hat. Those Zwift Tour hats are actually really nice. I might actually go and pick my one up. I say this like my garb is nice today. It's not. It's horrible. But anyway, we move. I've got I'm currently sporting the Zwiftopia socks. So the reason I'm wearing them is because every time I do the Watopia tour, it matches the kit there, but obviously I'm not in the tour, and it's automatically put me. That guy in the purple, you've got my kit of the day. Look at that. Just to the left, little red hat, your kit of the day. As for bikes, I'm not really sure. There are a couple of Tron bikes. I always think Tron bikes is a bit of a kind of measuring. Well, I won't say it. You know what I mean. You need to complete the Everest Challenge to pick up your Tron bike, and that's all about climbing. Not always the fastest bike, but they do look cool, and they're kind of that little badge of honor. So anyone you see with a Tron bike has kind of usually really put the effort in to get there. So we're kind of into loop 1 now, and as mentioned, we have like 8k to go. It does look like the group has dwindled a little bit. I say dwindled, there's 17 people. I almost fall off the back here. Classic move where you don't pay any attention, but it doesn't take much to kind of keep on the tail of these of the group. This many people. I would love. I think next time I do this, I'm going to try and break it up a little bit. Try and be the guy that kicks. Maybe dive into the chat on someone that you see at the front and say, "Hey, do you want to go?" Just to be a bit mischievous, because it would make it a little bit more fun. I did a bit of a deep dive into the Zwift Power after this, and the guy that's won this basically wins loads of Cat C races, and he is registered. Obviously, they're category enforced. He's registered Cat C, but it's it says there's an asterisk next to it saying almost Cat B. So he's obviously a pretty decent cyclist. He's got 24 million sweat points. He's put his time in. So I think he's 50 odd years old. And if you are wondering which guy it is, it's the guy in that kind of blue cheetah coloured top. I dive to the front there and then use my use my ghost just to let them think that I might be kicking on ahead, and then casually just drop back as my kind of see whether anyone thinks that I've kind of dived to the front of the peloton, ghosted up, and then disappeared off. Obviously, everyone called my bluff, and just realised that I was the fairly average cyclist that I actually indeed am. Anyway, back around Buckingham Palace, as you can see, we've gained about 1.5 meters since the last time we were here in elevation, and we've probably kept the entirety of the 18 people that we were with last time we were here. It's not the most exciting race, I will give you that, but it is something that I really, really, really enjoy doing. It's the little changes in speed that I kind of really enjoy. This one is a particularly for me, it was just like stay with the group until you get to the finish, and then I've actually got no idea what you do at a finish. Like, I don't know how a sprint finish works. I don't know when to do it. I don't know what kind of, I haven't been cycling long enough to kind of understand that I can go from this point or I can go from that point. So for me, it's like these are all just one giant learning curve, but I really am enjoying it. I always kind of wonder who else is sweating and hurting whilst doing this. We kind of do hit, we hit the odd 300 watts. Some guy chucks his burrito in and then goes. I think next time I do this, I'm going to start, a couple of burritos. So it looks like there might be a little breakaway here, which I'm hungry for it. We're hitting 400 watts, or I was hitting 400 watts for a brief second there, but it did get noted. Are these the little things? There's my guy with his fire socks, the eventual guy that takes the win. It does look like we could have had half a break. If I'd gone, I don't know what is the best thing to do. Is it just to go and then message someone and say, look, we've got to make it stick? Or do you just go and ride with it? Because obviously, if you were out on the road, I presume you could say, right, are we doing this? Obviously, everyone just gets pulled back in. So it's a much about nothing, and it kind of, the move itself, the attack comes to nothing. I don't think we're dropping anyone off the back. It doesn't look like anyone's kind of leaving on our little map. And the whole group comes back together, and then I casually just squirrel my way to the back to recuperate. Anyone that does look like they've fallen off has kind of now rejoined the group. So in classic London, UK style, here comes the rain. If there's one thing, you would have thought that as a Londoner myself, that the rain would probably have helped me. Having dropped off the back, though, I do realise that in actual fact someone has kept the attack going. But if there's no hunger for it, then it's not going to break up. So nothing you can really do. We needed, in my opinion, another little hill, I don't want to call it a climb, but a little hill that just breaks up the group slightly. those are the interesting parts of the races, because you got to work your absolute nuts off to what I do anyway, to stay in the pack, to kind of keep you going. So as we come down the Mall for what will be the penultimate time, the Union Jack flags left and right, Green Park on the left, St James's on the right, and we are. I was wondering, like, what are we going to do for wattage as we come round on this last lap. You see my heart rate's now hitting 157, which is working. Yeah, we know basically that is like that's me working. I have noticed that I think I don't know I can't remember what teeth I have on my front chainring, but it's probably a little bit too big for me, because I don't yet have the ability to work at that wattage for that amount of time. So, thing to think about. I don't know whether anyone really cares anyway. I'd love this group to break up. I'd love there to be a story about this, but the only thing I've got to tell you is that we are about to lap someone, which is I don't know. Is it a pride in place? Does the race does it change anything? Do they finish? Do they cross the finish line and the race end? Is that how a crit would work? But in a normal race, they still have to finish that lap. Anyway, nothing really going on. I do find that Zwift is a bit funny with its positioning of riders every now and again. I think being on the inside of corners is actually quite handy, especially if you're willing to kind of put a little punch in on the pedals on a corner. You can kind of find yourself in a pretty good position. So, hey, how you doing? Good. Okay, right through. Always curious. Let's just see on the map whether that guy dives in and joins the ride, or whether he just falls backwards. Looks like he just let the peloton go. So that could have been like a little cruisy way to the finish. You could have taken that as a tow, but happy just to see it go by. As it's pissing down in London, I presume this is meant to be Oxford Street, or thereabouts. Again, another place I would never recommend cycling if you find yourself in London. But there are a few attacks. I think 100% next time I'm just going to be way more mischievous with it and try and go with these attacks. With 300 odd watts, I think that's like 3.4 watts per kg for me, which is, that's the upper end of what I'm able to do. I'm 161 on the HR, so we're kind of getting close to me being gassed out. I can probably hit 172 if, like, as a straight out sprint. So I don't really want to get high 160s during a race. I don't think we lose anyone here, but we are starting to see maybe the pace pick up just slightly, and a few things. I, as a novice, once again, I'm just trying to figure out what do I do, how do I do it, and then every time I think that and think I should do something, I realise that in actual fact I don't have the ability to do it, so I just have to sit back and kind of enjoy the ride, make sure I stay with the group. But I was incredibly happy to ride with the group and be on the group the entire way. Definitely made it like a fun race. They become pretty miserable if you drop off the group and have to go around solo. Probably not worth sticking it out unless you're completely invested in just picking up a bit of a TT time. I don't know what I'm doing here. I guess I'm just thinking, right, what should we do? I do remember quite foolishly the other day I basically set my trainer difficulty to 0 just to see what the difference is. Usually I ride it at about 50-60%. And I forgot to put it back. And the main thing with trainer difficulty, it makes it so obviously the wattage to cover the ground is exactly the same. The main difference is the way in which you achieve that wattage. With a higher trainer difficulty, you have more dependence on your gears on the bike. So effectively, a low trainer difficulty in some senses squashes the gradient that you feel on the ride. So you can basically ride a reasonably hilly course in 1 or 2 gears, whereas if your training difficulty is high, that same course will require a lot more gearing. So the way that I like to describe training difficulty is that if you turn it off, 2 plus 2 equals 4. If you turn it on, it still equals 4, but the manner in which you do it is very different. It's like 0.2 plus 0.1 plus 0.3 minus 1.2. Like, the equation to get there is just more, so it takes more brain power. You deviate from your effective, like your most efficient cadence. You deviate it deviate from it more often because you are changing gearing and changing cadence as the gradients change. So technically your speed will be the same, but you are doing it in a very different way. So it's a way to kind of simulate erg mode, if you will. You know, if you kind of riding and you're just doing a free ride and you want to kind of not have to worry about gearing too much, then it kind of simulates erg mode a little bit. There is a degree of similarity, but I forgot to put it back on, and I like to race with a higher training difficulty. It gives me more control. Just makes it more enjoyable, gives it another aspect. I am planning on doing a video on it, and I'm sure that if anyone has got to this point of watching this video, then you are probably the only person who I would consider would probably watch a video on training difficulty. Anyhow, this is the final time we say hi to the... I was about to say the Queen, but obviously it's the first time in 60, 70, 80 years that we haven't had a female as our monarch. So that's just passing the King's house. That feels very weird for me to say. The entirety of my life it's been the Queen. So we're passing the King's Palace up towards the Duke of Wellington Arch for one last time. I'm hoping someone, you know, when do you go for a kick? We're just under a mile, so what, we're like 1.5k left of this race. It's up, down, and then down the mall. Someone looks like they might be taking a little bit of a lead out. A few people look like they're going with. Okay, so there's me, 350 watts. Like, I'm going to try and stick with this, just for the banter, if anything, just to kind of be in the mix. So any move, my whole plan, this whole race, as boring as it is just covering moves, making sure I'm still in the mix the entire time. I guess that's all you really can do when you're not what you would consider the strongest rider. So I'm thinking that basically any point from now, look, we touched 500 watts on that corner, and that's like moves me straight up to the front of the group, which I'm pretty happy with. Someone's cheekily used their ghost and gone for a little sprint. Some person uses their burrito to catch them. We're still a ways out. We're still over half a mile. This is 1k out, so if you're going to go from here, you need to go hard. The guy that wins the race, look, he's gone, and now he's using his burrito. I think the burrito, I don't know what it does. I think it just maybe boosts your wattage for a little bit. Here's me. Look, there's me. 400, 460 watts. Just trying to hold on. I'm absolutely gassing now. 167 HR. So this probably goes down 168, probably goes down as a fairly 169. Go on, Max, get to 170. Goes down as a pretty impressive 170. God, look at me go. Goes down as a great training session. I think I nudge 171. Yes, boy. 172. Stop it. This is brilliant. I need to do this more often. This is going to be great for my fitness. I'm probably sat in, what, like fourth now? Fourth. Some guy goes past. I'm now fifth. There's the line. Hold on. Little kick. 174. Wow. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm fifth. I'm juiced now. Look, you can just see the wattage tail off. I went way too early. Right. Go on. Push, 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 push. And I don't know where I finished, but like you can obviously tell I got taken down at the line. The overall review, there you go. 267 watt, which is a 3 watts per kg average, with an average heart rate of 151. I don't know who that person is below me riding at 179 watts and 116 average HR. You'd probably think that if they're 3.4 watts per kg at 179, they are very small. So could be one of the women in the race. But I always 116 HR, and I'm hitting 172 or 151 average. That's curious, shall we say? Anyway, that was a really great ride. Really enjoyed it. I'm absolutely balls.